That's a sign. But, which way, Lord? Slowly going. Lord? What you doing? I think that's a sign saying I shouldn't go that way. Well, that's a sign pointing me in that direction. Well, looks like I finally made it. Welcome back to Healing Waters of Bethesda. I am Michael, and we're continuing a 10-part series from the desert to the promised land. And our God is a very creative God. And today we're talking about signs and following signs from the Lord. And because I did state that our God is a very creative God, let's jump into Genesis to start us off today. Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." So I just want to point out one thing, that when he was making the stars, he made them to indicate seasons, for days, and for years, and also for signs. Alright? So, oftentimes, I don't think this is really talked about a lot, but God will give you different signs along the way. Now, one famous sign in the Bible I'm not really going to get into is, the fleece. Putting out a fleece. Is it wet? Is it dry? Or, But I want to talk about a few signs or things that have happened in my life, and also on my journey to getting my new house. The first one I'm going to talk about is way back in the day. I had a hedgehog. It was a puppet hedgehog, and I really liked it. So much so, I made a Facebook for it. And, you know what? The Lord had me decide to get rid of that hedgehog. I'm like, okay. And I'm kind of like, do I? And I'm kind of like saying to the Lord, it's like, well, what if I need that hedgehog for something, And I kid you not, like that next Sunday, I got the same exact hedgehog from somebody else, because they knew I was into puppets and stuff. And I'm like, okay, Lord. So I'm getting the picture here. It's like, yeah, he really does want me to get rid of that one hedgehog. Because I was kind of making it too much. I wouldn't say an idol, but it was starting to go there. I was putting too much affection on that one stuffed doll. Or puppet, whatever you want to call it. Because I even made a Facebook. And so I knew how this was going to go. I'm like, okay, I'm going to toss both of them up in the air. And whatever one lands on the ground first, I'm going to toss. And I kid you not, the one that just kind of hits the tree, and as it's going down the bark of the tree, it just slowly rolls down the bark of the tree. The other one just flops down. I'm like, okay, I kind of saw this coming. I wasn't surprised, but I'm like, okay, I'm getting rid of the hedgehog. But I kind of found that would kind of be a cool interaction. God likes to speak to us in different ways. He created the universe. So why can't he be creative in how he speaks to us? And I think sometimes we just gotta learn to understand how creative God is. Now, another time, I was having a dream, and I'm like, I'm not going into the details of the dream or what the dream was about, but it's like, Lord, I kind of need a confirmation. And so, and this is during the Feast of Tabernacles, so it turned out to be the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. One of my friends invited me to go out. And lo and behold, as I'm entering in disc replay, God's saying, your confirmation is here. I'm like, okay, Lord. So I'm like looking all throughout the stores, like I don't see nothing at all. And I'm just kind of giving up. And I'm just looking in the book section, and lo and behold, if you want to know what it's about a little bit, if you read Isaiah chapter 1, it talks about many wives, okay? And it's dealing with the end times. And so it's basically talking about 7 men to one, or 7 women to 1 man. And God was basically leading me to this one book, and I just happened to, I wasn't looking for the signs anymore, and I saw, it's like, oh, okay, so Invasion of the Boy Snatchers. I'm like, okay, well, this is different confirmation, but if this is God, then like, there should be more than just one. So I'm looking throughout all these books. Nope. I'm not seeing a single one. And so I'm just putting the book back. And as I'm doing that, because the Lord can guide your eyes, right? So as I'm putting the book back, and I'm done looking for, these signs, lo and behold, my eyes gaze towards another book. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just looked for them. And then automatically my eyes moved, God guided my eyes to look in one other direction, and there was another 2 books next to each other. I'm taking a step back and like, okay, Lord, okay. So that was another sign that God had given me. That was a confirmation sign. And like I said, God's a very creative God. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 and 2 here. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judah, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and come to worship him. Alright, right there. They had a sign in the sky of the stars that God had made from the beginning of time to pronounce that his king, Jesus, was going to be born. But here's the catch. They didn't know where that sign was leading them, did they? They knew it was leading them. They knew the general area. They didn't know the specifics, did they? No, they didn't. They just okay, I see the sign, I'm following that sign. That's what they did, didn't they? And in so doing, they were able to eventually get to the king. And I had a detour at one point. I was listening to this program by Glenda Lomax, and she was doing some personal prophecies. Now, it wasn't pertaining to me specifically, but it was feeling a witness within my spirit about it. And if anybody knows anything, basically it was kind of like, don't be searching over there kind of deal. You'll miss more than you know. Or I can't remember the exact terminology. But she also is as a confirmation, you'll be coming across an article. Alright? And it's well, I really don't read news articles, I'm like, how's that gonna work? And so, if anybody knows anything about Gary, Indiana, it used to be the murder capital of the world, but to me, I'm thinking, that's probably the only place I'm going to be able to afford to actually buy a house. And let's face it, the market's just terrible for trying to find a house, even in Hammond, too. And over in Hobart, it's just in my price range, I'm this is the only spot that I can see. And lo and behold, my boss comes and kind of talking, we're kind of in a small group, and he's she's talking about a news article that she sent to her boss about the fatality and the death rate or the shootings or something like that. And I'm like, well, there's my article, Lord. I'm like, yeah, okay. And I just kind of gave up for a while. It's like, because I didn't really see anywhere to go, And in the midst of all this, the Lord had to kind of strengthen my faith by giving me a sign. And so I'm out on a delivery, and lo and behold, I'm delivering to someone named Joshua Long. And if anybody knows, Joshua in the Bible is similar to the name Jesus in the Bible also. And so I'm like, Long, well, okay, Jesus' hand is very long. His hand is long and outstretched. He's able to do it, And as I'm driving back from that delivery, my eyes automatically are guided over to this abandoned strip club. Not so much the strip club itself, but it was the name. It was like Dollhouse. Alright, Lord. I just kind of felt that was weird at first, and I was kind of noticing that, the name, and I'm like, okay, what was that? And then, so I did my next delivery, and in my next delivery, I was delivering to Amanda Joy. And if anybody knows what Amanda means, it means worthy of love and joy. Alright? So God was saying, you are worthy of love and of joy, and you bring joy to me in a sense. And as I'm actually driving to her house to deliver, my eyes are automatically are guided to another sign that says a dollhouse place, and this was for a beauty salon. All right, and I'm like, okay, so I'm getting another sign here. It's like they're kind of connecting here a bit. And I'm like, oh. And then my next third delivery, the person's name was Hope Tailored. Tailored hope. God is making your hope specifically. He's sewing it together. All right, that's what a tailor does. They fit your stuff together. They make the clothes fit perfectly. And Hope Tailored means it's a perfect fit. And right next to that person's house just happened to be the very first house that I actually tried to look at. I'm like, okay, Lord, that was not a very good fit for me, that house, obviously. Because they wanted cash, and I could not do cash. And it was a very bummed and run-down house. And I was thinking of fixing it up. But nope. That was not God's plan for me. But I do remember at that time, God kind of giving me that urge to try to look at that one house. So you see what he was doing. He was urging me to try to look at that house, even though I wasn't going to get that house till later, to be able to give me a sign and a confirmation that he still wanted me to look for a house. Yeah, that's a lot to take in. But our God is a very creative God, and at that time I kind of needed that, because I kind of it is very hard to try to find a house. Like, Lord, where are you guiding me? And I just knew that he was giving me a sign. It's like, yeah, I'm still for you getting a house. And I don't know what your thing is, or what God's promised you to get you from your desert place to your promised land. But signs is sometimes the way God does guide his children, and he is a very creative God. So I'm hoping this would be a blessing, and Lord, let them expand their understanding of how creative you are and how awesome you are, Lord. And I pray that you give them eyes to see and guide their eyes to the truth and to the signs to see, and give them understanding of those signs that you are giving them, Lord. And I pray this all in your mighty name, Jesus. Amen. And let the blessings flow. All right. God bless. Amen.